Wanted to talk about this device today, the humble metronome. Love these things. The mechanical ones are definitely fallen out of favor because you can get a free metronome app on your iPhone, of course. But I really like these mechanical ones because they're always next to my music stand and there's nothing stopping me or distracting me from turning it on. So I like to have like a tool like this where it's just like a specialized tool, and even though you can have a free one on your phone or on your iPad, it's just you'll there's if there's any resistance to a metronome, you're going to feel it because metronomes are a very antagonistic tool. So if there's any resistance, oh, I have to get out my phone. Oh, I have to turn on the app or something. If it's something, it's just like put this on a shelf next to your fiddle and turn it. Just start the pendulum going. That there's nothing stopping you from using this thing at that point. So do whatever it takes to use a device that's there's going to be no pushback. That's number one. I use this quite a bit. So when I have a piece that's sort of fingered and bowed, my next step is really to find parts in the pieces. I call them the R keys. R stands for Richter. So Sviatoslav Richter was, in my opinion, someone that understood tempos. So if you hear like The Tempest or something like that, where one pianist would just plow through the third movement of the piano, Beethoven, The Tempest, that is. Richter is like on the heels because there's a section where if you don't gauge the whole movement in this one section, you're basically going to have to slow down. So he just I don't know if he probably doesn't do this on purpose. So it's just probably something instinctual after, being such a mature musician and magician, is his ability to really lock in a tempo and sort of and use that as like the pivot place for all other tempos around it. So not to say that Richter is, doesn't have a rubato sense of playing. Like definitely does. What I mean by rubato sense of playing is where you're just constantly like a piano dynamic or a dolce indication means for a lot of musicians to actually pull back the tempo. And I like that. So that a rubato tempo is really tasteful in the romantic and the classical repertoire. And so not to say that Richter doesn't have sort of a sensibility of musicianship, but you can definitely tell like he's identified pieces in each movement where it's like, oh, I don't want to go any faster than that. It becomes a little bit of a scramble. And yeah, like I was saying, the third movement of the Tempest, Beethoven Tempest Sonata, which I think is number 17. You can tell that the third movement is it feels slow, but it's not. It's so much more powerful because he's given himself um, a little bit of a challenge. He has said, "Hey, this part later in the movement is just really whipped up if it's too fast, right?" So he locked in a certain tempo for that section, and then built the tempo for the movement around that. So I tend to going back to violin playing, I tend to after fingering bowing something, sort of organically finding a section of the piece of each movement where it's like this is probably max tempo. I wouldn't want to go any faster because it becomes a little whipped up or distasteful, and maybe risky. Even though I'm into risk, but you want to have a good foundation. So And then I create basically from there an R key. R key is R like Richter key, so KEY. That's just, it's a personal indication for me. So I'll mark at the beginning of each of my movements like an R key, this measure number, and then also put sort of a suggested metronome mark for the whole piece based on the R key. And so if you do that, you can sort of have fun, because what you'll find is instead of being always at the so say the R key is sort of on the conservative side, but tastefully so. That means perhaps the opening of a piece is a little on the slow side. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, like if you have that sort of forced upon you, you have a lot of freedom to sort of play within that slower dynamic. And then, of course, when you get to those sections that are like really ticking along, that's where the energy comes from. That way, there's like a little bit of an understanding of what the piece really is, on average, supposed to be ticking along at. And then, of course, like one person's R key is another person's really slow R key, right? So you can assume that someone that's got some chops might really take a passage quick, and so the whole piece kind of goes fast. Yeah, so one more thing about the metronome. So I use it as a tool, sort of like I was saying, like a measurement tool. So everything I'm describing is like almost like if I was a draftsman. I was just laying at my drafts table and sort of doing some measurements. That's kind of what I'm doing with this tool at this point, right? It's not really an antagonistic tool where it's just like metronome practice. Oh my gosh, I have to, deal with this monotony. Don't think of it that way at all. Think of it as a great tool to measure things. Like I was saying with the finding the R key. And then, once you find the R key, you can sort of practice slowly without a metronome, blah, blah, blah. Now, the other thing I want to say about metronome is it is good to sort of just turn this thing on once in a while and kind of use it in a traditional sense of just seeing where you think you might be in tune all the time. You think you might be like playing really in time. I doubt you're playing in tune, and I doubt you're playing in time. And that's why we don't want to listen to ourselves mostly. If you do, congrats. But if someone turned on a tape recorder, 9 out of 10 people that had just recorded something, they'll be like, I don't want to hear that. Well, the reason they want to hear that is they kind of know that their ear is really good, and once they hear themselves sort of out of the heat of the moment, they'll be in sort of analytical mode, and they'll just, everything's out of tune, right? And then same thing can be said for tempo. It's sort of like the intonation of time. It's you're going to hear that, man, without a strong supporting orchestra or a piano. I mean, you're just not going to be in time at all. Just accept it. So what we can do is practice slowly for intonation. Really, I have other videos on trying to lock in intonation as best we can. And then for the timing issue, do practice with the metronome. And it's just as simple as, I really feel like it's not even worth going into this demonstration, but here I'm dividing a beat up into two. So this thing I was thinking about presenting for this video is something that's in 4/4, but it's in triplets. So let me play it without the metronome just for a few bars. And this is, I'll pulse the quarters. Okay, so what happens when you don't use a metronome? You might start pulsing strange beats. So this particular piece isn't written in any particular way. It's not written like with triplets indicated, but it's just there's 6 notes per 16th notes per quarter instead of 4. So you can think of it as triplets. See, when I don't have a metronome, I start feeling the and the magic of the metronome is you can divide beats up in any kind of way. So if I was to divide the quarters up into eighths, it forces me to think of this these patterns more appropriately, I think, which is triplets. So instead of so here it is divided up into the eighths. And by practicing this entire piece divided this way, everything becomes more clear. It's not just like driven so aggressively. It's actually it becomes on its heels. So something about triplets are, I don't know, there's something about them where they just feel a little more whimsical. So I was going too fast. So the great thing about the metronome is you'll find sections where you're always pushing, sections that you're behind. And that's what I think the whole idea was with teachers. Well, it's a great tool for composers too, but I think there's a reason why teachers, push these things. It's because you'll find all these little sections that you're too slow or too fast. So by using this all the time, you'll just constantly be reminded where you rush, where you don't rush. And what's great about that is the places that you rush, you can just relax. There's a section where I'm extremely ahead because the fingering is clumsy, and it's just the more stressed I get, the faster I go. It's a bad habit. So there's a section where, like I was saying, without the metronome, I probably would practice it 1,000 times way too fast. And that means it's just going to be a clumsy mess. Well, it turns out with the metronome on, if I don't have to stress about the section anymore because, I'm playing too fast. So I don't have to be somewhere. I'm not late for anything, right? So, yeah. And then before I was playing that section very fast, and I wasn't getting anywhere with those the prickly fingerings. Yeah. So I don't want to be a dead horse, but the main thing is for really enjoying the metronome when you practice with it, where it's constantly on, because you'll find that it's like ensemble playing all of a sudden. It's really fun. It's not to be something that you should be scared of. Don't get angsty thinking about using a metronome. Just really look forward to using a metronome because it is really fun. You learn a lot, and man, to be able to like pull back and push and play with the metronome is like the next level, and that's what happens after a few passes of the piece with the metronome, you're going to start being able to rubato a little bit here and there, and next thing you know, a piece is really locked in on the timing front. Yeah, so those three things. Use those as sort of a launch pad for what you can do with metronomes. I mean, I'm just suggesting a very limited use of a metronome. There's probably 100 things you can do with a metronome. So yeah, do what you will, but yeah, use those as a launch pad for your creativity and using this tool. Enjoy it, look forward to it, and enjoy the rhythmic nature of classical music, because it is really important. The composers write a lot of indications about timing and tempo and things like that. So understand that the metronome is there to help, not hurt you. Yes.